Hey guys, Alex Man here in the garage. Let's see what we're doing today. Well, you can see we got the 4Runner in here, parked all crooked like. Mainly just so I have some work on both sides of the truck, room to work on both sides of the truck. What we're actually working on today is rear wheel bearings and replacing the differential. Okay, so here's the parts I got. I got two wheel bearings, wheel bearing collar, and here I got the snap rings, the inner and outer wheel seal, and the O-ring, the big O-ring. Got all these parts from Marlin Crawler, and under here is a spare differential I have. It's just basically a stock one. It's a 410 open diff, so you know, the same thing that came in all the 4Runners. Well, that's not true at all, but you're pretty much run-of-the-mill kind of thing here, so nothing special yet. Reason being, the differential that's in there, it has a little bit of play at the pinion. It's real loose. There's basically no pinion preload, and it makes a slight whirring sound just when you're coasting, not when you're decelerating, not when you're accelerating, just when there's like pretty much no load on the drive line. So kind of got me worried. So this process actually applies to pickups, 4Runners, Tacomas, almost all years, T100s. All those Toyota trucks use a very similar design overall of the rear end. So whether you got ABS, locking diffs, you know, E-locker, it's going to be very similar as far as the overall process goes. Now you might have a couple more wires if you have ABS. If you got the E-locker, you're going to have more wires, and the bolts are going to be slightly different on the pumpkin, things like that. But overall, the process is pretty much the same. Easy peasy. Let's get the wheels off. Alright, gonna take the fill plug off first here. Make sure that we can get that loose. Then I'll get the drain plug out of here and we'll drain the oil out. Alright, so right back here we got the brake line going into the wheel cylinder there. That's got to be disconnected, and then the parking brake cable has got to be disconnected too. So you know, you can't put your truck in gear, you can't put it in, can't put the parking brake on if you're going to take it all off. So I got the front wheels chocked before I'm doing this. But anyway, so let's go ahead and get that there, and then we'll get this here, and then we'll keep going. I'm going to spray it with some PB Blaster. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. Once the cotter pin comes out, don't lose the little wavy washer. Put it all back together. You want to make sure you use a flare wrench for this, if at all possible. Came right off. So I got here a couple of brake line caps. Basically, it's just a brake line tee with the correct Toyota thread on there. It's 10x1. It's the correct metric thread on there. And then just a couple bolts stuck in the other ends of the T's, or the L's, whatever you want to call them, to keep them from leaking. That way you can cap your brake lines when you're working on them, so stuff doesn't leak out. Or, you know, if you were to have something break, I guess you could use them on the trail or something like that too. So yeah, that's what those are. Alright, at this point the only thing that actually holds this axle in is these four nuts here. You just loosen those and then the whole thing just slides right out. Alrighty, at this point there's nothing really holding the axle in, just gravity, and it's just sitting in there. So we just need to pull that whole thing out, just slide straight out of the axle housing. Alright, so now we just got to do the whole thing, same thing on the other side. Alright, so there it is. The two axle shafts out of the rear end. So that's how you pull the axle shafts out. That's a pretty simple procedure actually. I mean, if you think about it, it might have taken a little bit more video time to get here, but in reality you're pulling a brake line, parking brake cable, and 4 nuts. And that's it. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to pull the differential, the center section, out of there, and then swap the new used differential in there. Once that's all done, we'll put some new wheel bearings in these outer assemblies, a couple wheel seals, and then button it all back together. And you can see there, because the pinion nut is loose, there's oil in there. And there's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be all sealed up. And now we're ready to pull these 12mm headed hex nuts. I believe there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I guess there's 10 of them. There's 10 nuts there. Let's pull those off, and then we're pretty much ready to pull the whole center section out. Alright, at this point we got one nut holding it on there at the top, and plus whatever gasket or goop is left on there. So I don't know how stuck this thing is going to be. We can apply a slight upward force. Oh no, now we're leaking. I guess I didn't drain enough out. Okay. She's mine. Setting her down on the rag. Safe and sound. On the ground. Minus my creeper, I busted her. It's out. So now we're gonna clean up that surface and put some gasket poop on there and put it all back together, I guess. Just gonna clean this off here too. I've already cleaned it before when I was working on this thing, but just gonna wipe it down again. Make sure we got a nice clean surface here to seal up to. Permatex Ultra Gray is what we're using to seal this whole thing up. Okay, we got the gasket maker on there. We're gonna try to get this thing in now. It's a little bit heavy. She is. She's in. Just gonna snug all these up. Alright, let's turn our attention to these rear wheel bearings. So here's the rear axle assembly, backing plate and everything. So there's a snap ring that holds this on, and then you need to push the axle out through this collar and bearing, and it'll all come out the other side. So you need to be able to pull up on this while pushing down on the axle shaft. There's a special tool you can buy from Toyota. Well, I'm not sure if it's still available, but there's a special tool that was made by Toyota, special service tool, but I don't feel like buying that or even looking to see if it's available, so I made this thing, which will do the same thing. So it was kind of a scrap piece of tubing with some things at the top welded on, and those will go against the table of my hydraulic press, and then those two ears sticking off the bottom there, they engage with these studs, and there we go. So we'll just put a couple nuts on there and now you see that I can put this on the table of the hydraulic press and push on the axle shaft, and it should all pop apart. Oh, after I pull this snap ring off of here. Man, that would really cause me some headaches. Let's try this without the snap ring in there. Snap ring pliers. There we go. Alright, so there's it all cleaned up a little bit, and a little close-up for you to see what we're actually dealing with here. So that's where the circlip was, and now we're going to push this axle shaft right out from inside of this and the bearing. Let's do it. Right. Installing the special service tool. These nuts on here. Alright, we got it all set up here. Hopefully this works. Hopefully my tool doesn't break. I got a piece of wood underneath the axle so that if this does work, it'll protect the wheel studs. Ah, perfect. Alrighty, it's out. Cool. Alright, so there's the axle shaft pressed out of the wheel bearing. And there's the backing plate. So pull our special tool off. And there's the collar and the wheel bearings in there. So the wheel bearing itself, you might have to press it out, but you can probably tap that part out just with a hammer. There's one of the wheel seals, the outer wheel seal. And yeah, so let's keep on going. Alright, so we got this thing propped up so that there's nothing behind this wheel bearing. So we're going to set this socket on there that way, and we're going to pound that wheel bearing out of there. Told you it was going to be easy. Also need to get this outer wheel seal off of here. That was pretty easy too. Alright, so now we're ready to clean this thing all up and start putting it all back together. Alrighty. First thing we're going to install is the outer wheel seal here. So we're just going to grease this up. That's probably way too much grease. And this just this is actually a pretty easy one to install. It just should push right in by hand pretty much. Alright, now we'll get our axle shaft here. Already cleaned up this axle shaft, so the surface that the bearing presses onto is nice and clean. The seal surface is nice and clean. This groove here for the circlip is all cleared out, so nothing in there. So now we can drop this backing plate onto the axle shaft. Okay. And at this point we're able to slide the wheel bearing on, outer wheel bearing. I'm going to grease up the axle shaft here, just hopefully to make it a little bit easier to install this bearing. Okay. Now we'll just slide it on there. Alright, so this is my seal driver tool. It just goes right up against the axle shaft there. I have put a little bit of a chamfer on the corner here, on the tip of this angle iron. This is 1x1, 1/8 thick, just so that it won't accidentally dent the seal on that bearing there. Probably wouldn't be an issue even without it, but just an extra precaution. Few light taps. Get started. Here it's changing sound there, so I think we're bottomed out. Yep, definitely bottomed out. Alright, now this collar is going to go on, and if you look at the side of it, one side's a chamfer, the other side has a much lesser chamfer. The chamfered side goes up, well, in this orientation, it goes towards the differential there. Alrighty, collar's going on. Alright, you can hear the sound change there. Guess we're bottomed out. And now we'll put the circlip into the groove. Ta-da! Getting ready to prep the axle housing here. Let's pull out the old seal. I got a little container underneath here to catch the oil that's going to come out. Okay. This all cleaned out. Go ahead and put the inner wheel seal on. Let's grease up the inner lip there and the outer lip as well. Alrighty, it's in there nice and flush all the way around. Put some grease on the outside here. Now we can put this O-ring on here. Okay. Alrighty, make sure that the wheel cylinder's at the top. Alright, so now we just thread those 4 nuts onto the back. Now we can hook back up the parking brake cable, and we will install a new cotter pin in there. And we can also hook up the brake line. Now we need to be very careful not to cross thread this. It's very easy to do, and it's very bad if you do. So tighten it up. We don't want to make this too tight. We'll check it for leaks. If we need to tighten more, we can. But you don't want to make it tighter than necessary, otherwise you risk making it very difficult to take off next time. Alrighty, it's been a couple hours since I put this on. Alright, so now we're going to torque this down to 18 foot-pounds per the factory service manual, which is 216 inch-pounds. Alright, time to pop the rear drive shaft back into place. Alright, so now we're pretty much done. At this point, all we got to do is put some fluid into it, bleed the brakes again, and we're all set pretty much. Take it for a test drive and let's see how it goes. So really, you see, it's a pretty simple procedure. You only need like 10, 12, and 14 millimeter sockets and wrenches to get it all apart. The only hard part is getting that axle shaft off the bearing and the bearing out of the backing plate there, and then putting it all back together. So at least now you've seen what's required. There's some other hack ways to kind of do it, kind of like banging the axle shaft on the floor and trying to get that thing apart. I did that once, and it took a long time. It kind of messed up the splines on the end of the axle shaft there. So it's up to you if you want to try that. Try it on a piece of wood or something. It might work for you, but mine were on there pretty good. They're pretty stuck. So hopefully this gives you a good idea of what you're getting into. You can see, pretty much everything you need there. If you have the tools, great. Now you know what you're doing, and if not, maybe you can save a few bucks, pull the axle assemblies out, and take them to a shop to get the bearings pressed on and off. So hopefully I'm able to help you out one way or the other. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. Hope it helped you out. Hope you guys have a great rest of the day. Happy wheeling.